Well, here we are with gift one of the greatest gifts of all. And I'm so excited. So let's jump right in. Let me start by asking you to do a little favor. I want you to imagine that you and I are really good friends, that we know each other, and I'd pick up the phone and give you a call if I knew your number, right? So let's say I picked up the phone and I give you a call, and that I'm talking to you about an audio book that I'm listening to. And I listen to audio books all the time. I really enjoy them. And I start mentioning this audio book to you, and I then mention the title of the book. And as soon as I mention the title, you just shut down and say, I'm not really interested in that. I don't have any interest in that. Then what would cause you to do that? Here's another. Let me a little personal story. So for many years, I would eat anything I wanted. I'd eat ice cream, I'd eat candy, bacon cheeseburgers, you name it. If I wanted it, I would eat it, and I'd eat as much as I wanted. I'd eat it any time I wanted. I wound up gaining well over 100 pounds, but what would cause me to do that? One last one. Imagine that I just changed. Again, this is true life. I mean, this is real for me. One day I just changed my eating. Changed my eating habits. Over the course of the next year, I lost 70 pounds. Now, what would cause me to do that? See, I can go on and on and on with examples of the power of this one greatest gift. The power to do great harm in our lives, and of course, the power to bring great joy. But what is this amazing gift? What is it that has this much power? It's our beliefs. It's our beliefs. See, what we believe affects every single aspect of our lives. How much money we make, the love we experience, our health, the quality of our relationships, where we live, what we read or watch on TV, and how we vote, or who we vote for, the friends we have, and the people who are not our friends. Everything in our life is affected by what we believe. See, here's the greatest gift. You can choose to believe what you want to believe. You get to choose your beliefs. You, not your parents, not your spouse, not your friends, not advertisers or religions or politicians, but you. See, each of us get to choose what we want to believe, and that's the power. Now you might be saying, Santa, I like your project here. I think you're a neat guy. But really, you're sitting here telling me that the greatest gift, well, one of our 9 greatest gifts, is the power, just the ability to choose one belief over another? Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. See, if you currently feel discontented in your life, if you do not feel a sense of meaning and accomplishment, and if you do not regularly experience joy in your life, happiness in your life, if you just do a little evaluation of your belief system, if you really look at your core beliefs, I'm sure that they will reveal the reasons. The reasons that you're discontented. And by making a few simple changes in your beliefs, you can almost instantly begin to improve how you feel about your life and really begin a process of improving those areas of your life that are causing the discontentment. And let me tell you a little personal story. And this is actually a very personal story, but it illustrates the power of beliefs and then the ease with which they can be changed and the dramatic impact they can have on our lives. See, between August 2007 and August 2009, I lost 110 pounds. I did it without surgery, without diets, without willpower. I didn't even have a goal. See, all I did was I changed a couple of my core beliefs. And by changing those core beliefs, everything else changed for me. Look at the picture closely here. Look at the watch on my wrist. And you can see that it's just kind of hanging slack there on my wrist. Look at this one. Look at my watch. You can see the fat on my arm kind of engulfing my watch band. And here's what I want to say. That as much as a belief helped me lose that weight, it was also a belief that helped me gain that weight, helped me put all that weight on. See, conventional wisdom would say that I gained the weight because I ate too much, or I ate the wrong foods, or I didn't exercise enough. And all those things are true. They're absolutely true. But they are not the whole truth. See, at times I did eat too much. And I did, at times, eat the wrong food. And I never exercised enough. That's sure enough. But now I know that these things are not the cause of my being fat, of my weight gain. Here's the real cause of my obesity. It was my beliefs. See, for decades, I went through life feeling like I deserved it. I believed that I deserved to eat what I wanted when I wanted. I had worked hard. I had earned it. I was entitled to reward myself with food. See, that's what my belief system was. See, I now know that as long as I believed I was deserving, I was at the mercy of outside conditions, like a stressful job and the various accomplishments that I might have, something that I might have achieved and went out to celebrate at a big dinner or something. And as long as I was at the mercy of these outside conditions, I was a victim of my circumstances. You see, somewhere in the course of my life, I had learned, which simply means I adopted the belief, that I deserved to reward myself by eating what I wanted when I wanted. I don't know if you can relate to this, but it's absolutely the way I believed for decades. Now, don't take this all wrong. I was conscious, and conscientious most of the time. I didn't always eat, steaks and baked potatoes and, cake and ice cream and all that kind of stuff. I often made more, what I considered to be more health-conscious choices. I ate things like granola and, often lots of granola. I love granola. And whole wheat bran muffins, love those too. And yes, bacon cheeseburgers on occasion. Excuse me. But I was not an out of control foodaholic or something. I mean, that's not who I was. But I was eating what I wanted when I wanted, and I was doing it because I believed I was deserving. That's what it was all about for me. I just, I earned it. I deserved it. This is the way my life was abundant. This is part of that abundance. Now, here's something that changed all that. I identified what I call a limiting belief. I found this belief that was at the core of this behavior, and I removed that belief from my belief system, and I added what I call an empowering belief. And I don't know if you're familiar with Alvin Toffler or not, but he's written a lot of books, Future Shock and a bunch of others, and he's really a distinguished futurist. And here's what he said, and I love this quote. He says, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who can't read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." See, in this case, unlearning is the process of challenging my existing belief system. See, to consciously change my thinking, I had to bring my unconscious beliefs up to the surface. I had to question them, and I had to get rid of some, and then I had to relearn some new belief systems and let them become a habit, become a part of my life. So this is a very, very important part of the process. See, every belief we have, whether the belief supports weight loss or weight gain, whether it supports abundance or lack, fear or love, ultimately every belief we have results in thoughts, and our thoughts will result in the actions or the inactions that we take in our lives. And it's these actions or inactions that really produce the circumstances that we experience in our lives. But it all starts with our beliefs. Our beliefs produce healthy actions, or unhealthy actions. Just depends on what our belief is. Our beliefs support if your beliefs support, say, a fit, lean body, you're going to have a fit, lean body. Beliefs, they are at the root of all of this. See, I know it sounds incredibly simple, and it is, but it's also incredibly profound. Belief is the foundation of thought. What we believe determines what we think. See, when I understood this tiny distinction, everything began to change for me. See, the destiny of our lives lies within ourselves, within our thoughts. It's in the energy of our thoughts. See, our destiny, including our weight, our relationships, our finances, and everything else, is determined by the energy produced and attracted by what we choose to believe and ultimately what we think. And then what we act, how we act out our thoughts. So, and I've mentioned here several times the energy of our thoughts. See, this is an incredibly important concept as well. Our thoughts are energy. They have energy, and it's this energy that really transforms our life. Now, if you need some scientific evidence to help support that belief, right? And sometimes we do. We need evidence to support our beliefs. But here's what I recommend. Read Dr. Bruce Lipton's book, The Biology of Belief. See, Dr. Lipton, he's a former medical school professor, he's a research scientist, and his research shows clearly that our genes and our DNA do not control our biology. See, and that's what we've all thought for a long time, that it's in our genes, right? It's in our DNA and whatever else. And here's what Dr. Lipton is saying, and this is what is research is proving, that our DNA is controlled by signals outside of the cell. See, outside of the influences, and it's these influences, including our thoughts, that have the greatest impact on our body, on our circumstances. It's absolutely fascinating. So as long as I continued to hold on to these limiting beliefs, these beliefs that didn't support the way I really wanted my life to be, the more this impacted the whole biology of my body. See, I was stuck. I was doomed. Those beliefs were forever in conflict with my heart's true desire to lose the weight. See, once I really got it, once I understood that my behaviors were a result of my beliefs, then I was able to go in and choose new empowering beliefs, and new thoughts and behaviors would automatically come as a result of the new beliefs. It wasn't about willpower. I didn't have to discipline myself. It's my new beliefs created a new set of behaviors automatically through every aspect of my life. See, this is a very, very important foundational concept that we're dealing with here. Now, I'm not saying that we get anything we want simply by wishing for it or hoping for it and dreaming about it and all that. We know that that's not true. But our wishes and our hopes and our dreams, when they're in harmony with our true beliefs and our thoughts, and then ultimately with our actions, that's when our lives do change. See, now, one of the most commonly held limiting beliefs that everybody talks about today, it's being too busy, right? We're multitasking. We don't have time to do everything that we want to do, and so forth. And it seems true. I mean, we look at our lives and say we are busy. But here's the thing. It's not true. You can look around and find somebody that is just as busy as you are, and they're doing the things that you're not doing. What they've done is they've prioritized their life a little bit different. They've prioritized their time a little bit different. I mean, look at the president. I mean, there's not too many guys anymore busy, more busy than the president, right? And yet you find time to play basketball and to jog and to play golf and do all those other things that are important. And it's about his beliefs, the belief in balance, the belief in exercise, and so forth. So again, we can find ways to manage our time, but it's our beliefs. It's what we prioritize in our deepest core beliefs that allow us to do the things that are truly important in our lives. And as long as we're trying to discipline ourselves or trying to use willpower, we're kind of what I call fighting against circumstances. We're fighting against our core beliefs. So we have a belief one way and we're fighting against it using our willpower. But if we just go in and change our belief system from me, not to I deserve, but something away from that says I deserve a healthy body. And in my case, I took more of a spiritual tone than that. I really started to believe that my body was my temple and I deserved to treat it better. From my higher calling was to treat it better. So that was the belief system that kind of changed for me. See, if we look at our circumstances and we're in alignment, that's one thing, but most of the time we're out of alignment. See, I wanted to be healthier, I wanted to be thinner, but I believed I deserved, so I was out of balance. I was not living true to my true desire because this belief was enabling me to live in an unhealthy way. So, that's the process. Now, let me give you 7 really easy steps that will help you fully receive this gift of choosing the beliefs that will support you, so you can automatically add contentment and happiness and meaning to your life. So let's look at these 7 beliefs, or these 7 little tools that you can use to really integrate this process of choosing the best beliefs into your life. So again, there's 7 steps. I'm going to go through each of them, then I'll summarize them all at the end. The first one is soul searching. Just taking some time each morning or at the end of the day, whatever works for you, but some time where you can be introspective and you can really think about who you really are, what you really want out of life. Remember back to maybe a more innocent or less complicated time about your core nature and where are you now relative to that. And you don't have to act on any of it right now, but what we need to do is reconnect with that. That's what I found really helpful for me, is to remember some of my true personality traits and some of the things from my earlier life that I just had kind of lost in the busyness and the hecticness of business and life over the years. I also learned to meditate. I didn't know much about meditation a few years ago, and which meditation is a little different than this soul-searching thing, in that you're just taking some time without really thinking, maybe concentrating more on your breath, or just kind of daydreaming in a way. So it's something that just clears your mind, and I found that's really been helpful for me as kind of a first step to changing my beliefs. So the next step for me after the soul searching here, the next step is really understanding what beliefs are. See this little fortune cookie there? It says all personal breakthroughs begin with a change in beliefs. Yeah, that's great, but what is a belief? Well, first off, beliefs don't have to be true. See, for many years I went through life thinking if science couldn't prove it, I didn't believe it. And that was kind of just it. And I recognize I'm different than that. There are many things that people believed long before science could prove it, right? And then science came around and 20 years later proved something to be right. Well, these people that adopted a belief early on, they weren't wrong. They were just early adopters to whatever the belief was, right? And that's kind of the way I look at it. So some of the beliefs that I have, can't be confident that they're absolutely true, that they'll be proven true 100 years from now. But right now, they support my life. They make things make more sense to me. And again, we get to choose the beliefs that we want. And we can choose beliefs. We can find evidence to support kind of any belief that you want. I mean, you can have evidence to support that all men are bad, or men are mean, or whatever, or men are great, men are loving and caring. Whatever it is, you can find evidence to support kind of any belief that you want to adopt. The question becomes one of what beliefs best support you and what you want to be in your life. So kind of gift or step one, process one here is that soul searching, and then step two in this process is understand what beliefs really are and what that means to you. And then step three is we want to identify and eliminate what I'm calling limiting beliefs. See, I identified some beliefs that just didn't serve me well. One belief was that it had to do with spirit. I said I went through many decades as a non-believer. Like I said earlier, if science couldn't prove it, I didn't believe it. That was it, period. See, now I realize that there are many things that science couldn't explain. And now I look at this and say, well, this spiritual thing, it supports me well. So I'm kind of choosing to see myself ahead of time. I kind of think that in time maybe science will prove that this existence of spirit really exists. But two limiting beliefs that I eliminated in my life was, one is there's no power greater than myself. So that was a belief that I held, that there's no power greater than myself. I found that to be a limiting belief, so I eliminated that. There's also there's no bigger purpose for my existence. I'm here, going to live my life. When my life's over, I'm all said and done. See, I found that to be a limiting belief. And then the next step in our little process here is after we've identified these limiting beliefs, we want to replace them. We have a blank slate, and we can replace them with some kind of a belief that's going to be more supportive. And again, when we say replacing a limiting belief with an empowering belief, what we're really talking about is just changing your mind. You say, I don't, this belief doesn't support me, this belief does. That's it. It's a very simple process. So, of course, I replace there is no greater power than myself with the thing there is a greater power than myself. Easy to find a lot of evidence to support that. And this allows me to have a little space to evaluate spiritual beliefs rather than just closing the door on that whole concept. By the way, remember in the beginning of this, I mentioned the audio book, and I mentioned the title, and this was a true story. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I mentioned the title of the audio book, which happened to be Life After Death, The Evidence by Dinesh D'Souza. And this person I was talking to said, I just don't believe in life after death. I have no interest in that whatsoever. See, they just closed the door on that whole process. And our limiting beliefs can do that. See, we can have a belief, and as soon as that belief is established, anything that contradicts that belief, we don't see it. We don't hear it. The belief just keeps that door shut. So it's really important that we choose beliefs that really allow us to be what we want to be in our life. So that's step 4 in the process, to choose really empowering beliefs. Then the next few here are personal to me, and I found them really, really helpful. Number 5 is accept infinite energy. See, I found that having a purpose bigger than me has been very empowering and liberating. So if you already have that in your life, terrific. I hope that you're finding that it's really benefiting you. This was new to me. I didn't have this, and then when I adopted it, it was really like, a light went on. It was like, wow, this is really, really neat. Something really good. Number 6 is to identify your greater life purpose. See, adopting a belief that my human experience has a purpose that has to do with my spiritual evolution. See, that was a big thing for me. That was something that really allowed me to see a bigger picture. And I'm not religious. I'm not talking about religion here. I'm talking about kind of just spiritual evolution. But what we're really talking about is just establishing a life purpose, something that's a little bit bigger, all right? And that kind of goes kind of hand in hand with number 7 here, which is to establish your vision of the ideal you. See, the difference between a vision and a goal is that a goal is a task. It's something that you want to accomplish, and usually there's incremental steps and measurements that you take. A vision is something where you're inspired. You simply move towards it. It's because it's kind of part of who you are. It's what you see yourself as being. See, goals can motivate or unmotivate. See, it's very unmotivating to me at age 35 to eat cottage cheese and tomatoes, okay? That wasn't very inspiring to me. But once my beliefs were kind of grounded in this bigger picture, I started really thinking about my life and my purpose and my responsibility and my body differently. I suppose you could say I started thinking about almost everything differently. I came to believe my feelings, my gut reactions could actually be kind of signals or communication from a energetic source that surrounds me. And once I began to believe in this universal energy and the importance of being connected with my spirit, it became very easy for me to maintain my thinking and my actions in accordance with these new beliefs. Anyway, this is what we're talking about today. We're talking about choosing new beliefs. It's one of the greatest gifts of all. And the exercise for you, do some soul searching. Understand really what beliefs are. They don't have to be truths. They're something that you choose to believe to make your life better. Eliminate your limiting beliefs and add empowering beliefs. Accept infinite energy in your life. Just the possibility that there's something bigger than you, that you're a part of. And identify your greater life purpose. What are you really here for? And then identify this vision of the ideal you. That is it. It is just such a great process. And in doing that, I'm just absolutely confident that you'll be able to add a richer, more contented feeling and existence to your life and to the people that you're around. And be sure to join us on Facebook. We have a little Facebook group. It's at facebook.com/the greatest gifts of all. Also, you can communicate with us by adding your thoughts right on the bottom of the page here on thegreatestgiftsofall.com. And be sure to spread the word. I'm hoping and I'm really confident that we can better the world. We can really, by us really finding ways to be contented and fulfilled in our lives, and the impact that we'll have on those around us, it'll just make everything better for all of us. So until next time, take care. This is Sant Ed Taylor. Hi, it's Sant Ed Taylor, and welcome to Gift 2 of the 9 greatest gifts of all. I remember Gift 1, we talked about limiting beliefs and really using new, empowering beliefs to see new things in your life and experience new things in your life and really help bring about a feeling of meaning and contentment and fulfillment. Gift 2 is another incredibly powerful gift. What Gift 2 is, what I'm going to be talking about, is agency. And agency simply means that we choose to live in alignment with our higher self. So before I really get into using agency, let's talk about our higher self and really what that means, at least what it means in the way that I'm using it here. And I see that my higher self as an aspect of me that kind of exists beyond my physicality. It's more of a pure spirit version of me. So my higher self, it serves as kind of a guide to remind me of my purpose in being here, which is the evolution of my soul. At least that's my belief. That's the way that I'm looking at my existence. So my higher self communicates with me in a bunch of ways. It, like intuition. Sometimes I just have a hunch or a feeling, and I believe that's my higher self speaking to me, especially in the last several years as I've become more aware of this. But mostly for me, it's in the stillness. I spend somewhere between 15 minutes and 60 minutes a day, usually first thing in the morning, in stillness and not really thinking, but allowing myself just to be without thought. And then I get flashes, or I get messages that are very different than the kind of thinking that you might have during the course of a day. It's something that just comes to me, and it comes with a lot of power and a lot of vividness and direction, and I love it. It's something that's absolutely amazing. In fact, this whole project, The Greatest Gifts of All, was a result of that process for me. So. And for decades and decades and decades, I didn't live that way. I mean, I didn't connect with my higher self at all. I mean, for all my, most of my 20s, 30s, 40s, I mean, that just wasn't part of the way I was. But what happened, and let me just kind of back through my little story here, and I think this might open you up to kind of see how this might apply in your life. From my earliest years, that's me in the black sweater there with my brother and sister, and the guy I was named for, which is a longtime family friend named Ed Davis. Anyway, that's us there together. And my youngest years, from my earliest memories until, I don't know, I was 11 or 12 or so, I remember really being fun and funny and very caring and considerate. And I also had a very strong conscience. I mean, I knew if there was something wrong, I would want to right it. And if I had done something wrong, I'd want to confess it, usually to my mom or something. I'd go to bed as a kid, I'd be thinking about something that I did that I shouldn't have done during the course of the day, and I'd go into my mom, and want to confess and explain what I had done. And today, what I'm getting a sense of that was my truer self, right? That was more my core self. Those are the things that are back in my life today. These are things that I feel very strongly today, but there were decades in the middle where I just lost touch with all of that. There's the picture with me in the backpack there I was off going to hitchhike across the country in 1973, and I did do that one, went all through U.S. and Canada and everything. And during that time, I was really kind of focused on being cool and doing cool things, and I was moving further away from my core self, my higher self, if you will, that connection with the more spiritualness of my nature. Then I went into business. You can see me out here as a speaker, and I was very caught up in myself as a speaker. I kind of went, kind of got very much into my ego. I was very sought after, and I was traveling the country every week, speaking all over the country and around the world. So I was, again, kind of lost myself in myself there for a while, and then part of the time, I went through devastating things with my son's brain surgery and my going broke at one time, and all these things just kind of, they were almost like a fog that as time passed and these things happened, that there was just a denseness in this fog that I was just really unable to see or unwilling to connect back to that core spiritual, that higher self. But somewhere in my 50s, I started waking up. I went through what I'm really calling now a spiritual awakening, and I started reconnecting with that more spiritual self. And now here I am as my Santa self, and I'm having a blast and really living fully into what I'm seeing, really like I said, kind of my higher purpose. And the gift of agency is this free will that allows us to live in the light. So it allows us to choose our spiritual path through our physical existence here, rather than getting lost in all this ego stuff. So that's really the process of accepting the gift of agency in our life. But here's the challenge, and it's a very, very significant challenge. There are forces all around us out there that make it increasingly difficult to use our our intuition or our senses to be in alignment with our higher self. Here's what I believe, and remember that gift one was all about belief. So I'm talking about what I believe here. I'm not saying this is true, but it's my belief. So I believe that we know just instinctually, just intuitively, that right from wrong, what we should do, what we should not do, what we should eat, what we should not eat. We have senses of all those things that if we just sit with ourselves, we'll get the guidance we need to do that. But here's the challenge: there are forces out there, and our modern, here's a perfect example, in our modern society, now this wasn't real modern, this goes back to the 1940s, but this is the evolution of where we are today. And let me tell you this little story about margarine in the 1940s. See, when this margarine product was introduced, it was not popular. Nobody wanted to buy it. Who would, right? But what happened was a scientific, what they called market researcher, was called in and to find a way to sell the product. How are we going to sell this grease, right? And what they did, and remember, at the beginning, margarine wasn't associated with butter. The texture wasn't the same. The color wasn't the same. Margarine was white. You can see in the ad here, they're coloring. They sell coloring for margarine. But what this market researcher did is he brought together luncheons of housewives. So they'd bring housewives in, and he would secretly have them use this colored, butter-colored margarine instead of butter at the table. And what he did is he observed that the housewives didn't really notice a difference. So what he said is, what we can do is we can make our margarine into something that looks like butter. And they packaged it in the same size as butter, and they wrapped it in the foil, and they named it things like Imperial, and they put the Crown logo to really give it the quality, look, and feel. And anyway, the end of all this was, of course, margarine became very popular, and the marketing mantra became perception is reality. If we can get customers or consumers to believe or perceive a certain thing, then they will buy our product. Well, that has just, since the 40s, that has just gone crazy in the country and around the world. It's everywhere. All of these marketers are really aggressively and subtly and very effectively getting consumers to buy all sorts of things that if we were just to back off and sit with ourselves and say, should I be buying this? Is this the kind of food? Is this the kind of product that I really want to support, that's really most in alignment with my core values? Oftentimes it would be no. Let's get back to the fact that perception is not reality, right? If you're a kitty cat, you're looking in the mirror seeing the lion, that's not reality. You're a kitty cat. So what we want to do is remember that reality is reality. Let's get back to trusting our gut, trusting our intuition, and really feeling that that's okay to do that. We don't have to keep up with some kind of society norms or whatever. We can be ourselves and live into our true selves. So the reality is, at least the way that I see it, that we're often manipulated, very, very often manipulated or deceived, and we wind up buying things that we wouldn't have otherwise bought. And the philosopher in the ancient times, Spinoza, put it like this, and I think it's great. He says, men believe themselves free simply because they are conscious of their actions and unconscious of the causes whereby those actions are determined. Right? So we believe ourselves to be free because we are conscious of what we're doing, but we're unconscious as to why we're doing it. Here's my call to you. Let's become conscious. Let's become conscious of why we're doing what we're doing, why we're taking the action we're taking, and then let's live into our higher self. Let's really take the actions that are in alignment with our deepest core values and our highest self. So that's the living in agency. That's receiving fully the gift of agency. And we have many forces that are acting on us subconsciously, and of course it's the medias, and we have many things going on in the media with television and internet and all the rest, where things that are not normal, right, or not certainly of the light, they're not the highest way that we can live, but they become very normal. They become, because they're talked about. Violence is a good example. We see it in music, or we hear it in music. We see it on TV. We see it in movies, and it becomes something that we feel is okay and very normal. my point is no. Let's separate ourselves. Let's use the agency that we have to be in the light and not become acclimated to all these dark things and accept them as being okay. They're not okay. Let's just live true to that. So I'm 100% in favor of people being able to make anything and do these products and all that. But we have to have the agency to live true to who we are and what we feel is our highest values. So here's another one, and you might find this one weird, but back when I was in high school, I played some sports. I played a little football, and I wrestled. I put the shot, if you know what that sport is, and I was not particularly good at any of them. But looking back, I'd become, as I participated in these things, much more interested in winning than in being true to my more spiritual side of myself. And again, culturally, this is very accepted. And as a young man, a adolescent boy, this is very, very common. But looking back at this point in my life, it's one of these things, this competition that kind of pulled me further away from my spiritual self. So the fact that we have this agency and we can choose to act in ways that are aligned with our higher self is a huge gift. And it seems to me that these obstacles that we overcome, that through modern society, it just makes it that much better, kind of that much more rewarding in a way to live true to really our highest self. So here's what I'm saying. Taking actions with an awareness of who we really are, and this is what agency is, and using our agency to act in alignment with our higher self is one of our greatest gifts of all. So let's look at some things that we can do, some simple steps that we can take to really bring agency into your life and keep it in my life in a way where we can live in alignment with our higher self. So we're gonna look at some very, very specific things we can do, just a handful of them here. First, we have to snap out of it. I believe that we're all kind of hypnotized by what's going on in our society, and unless we become conscious of what's going on by really waking ourselves up, we just buy what put in front of us. We go to the stores, and anyway. So we want to wake up. So our lives, our beliefs, our society, they all skew us away from living congruently with our higher self. And like the early marketers of margarine, there are industries that specialize in using all kinds of very sophisticated techniques that get us to behave in ways that favor their desires, but with no real regard to what's best for us. If you doubt this, read the book Brainwashed. I mean, Brainwashed, and then the subtitle there's Tricks Company Used to Manipulate Our Minds and Persuade Us to Buy. It's by Martin Lidstrom. It's a great book. It'll turn your stomach. It's absolutely disgusting what is being done to us in order to these companies and corporations to profit. But I'll tell you one thing, you will become a much more savvy consumer if you read that book. This is not all about commerce either. There are some societal practices, again, like sports and other things that are very competitive and so forth, that'll pull us away from our core values and living into our higher self if we're not very aware and very conscious. The next is continuing our soul searching. I mentioned this in Gift 1, but it is so essential to the process, and I'll mention it again. Take time every day to simply think about who you really are, and take time to not think at all, but get clear about your beliefs and evaluate your actions. Think about why you act the way that you do and why you make the choices that you make, and not looking for answers necessarily, but just bringing these questions up and then sitting with them. That'll be really, really helpful. And also accept infinite energy. I've mentioned this before, and the more that we can just really allow ourselves to just allow for the possibility. If this is something that's foreign to you and it seems too out there, too weird, that's okay. But just allow for the possibility, if you will, just while you're receiving these 9 greatest gifts, that you really are an energetic being that's here having a human experience. And then lastly, identify your greater purpose in life, and really what that means is connect with your higher self, and that will come to you what your greatest, what your higher self, what your higher vision of yourself is. So it's simply 4 very easy steps. Snap out of it. Do some soul searching and accept infinite energy into your life, and then connect with your higher self. And that is gift 2. So I'm so excited to be delivering these. I hope that you're getting a tremendous amount of value from them. I hope it'll add, and I'm confident it will add, these gifts will add a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning and a real soul-felt fulfillment into your life. So spread the word. Join us on Facebook. Join the conversation. Ask questions. Share your experiences. I love to get this community to continue to grow. We're already spread all around the world, so it's really, really exciting. And I'm just looking forward to you. And I hope we get a chance to connect in person at some point in the future. Take care. Talk to you soon. Hi, welcome to Gift 3 of the 9 Greatest Gifts. This, of course, is Santa Taylor, and I'm really excited to be with you again today. Now, if you remember, in Gift 1, we talked about beliefs and that incredible power that beliefs have in our life and how we can choose beliefs that really support the life that we want and the outcome and the feelings that we want to have in our life every day. And then Gift 2, we talked about the higher self and how we can use the gift of agency to really live into that vision of ourselves, that highest vision of ourselves. Today, this gift, Gift 3, is a little bit more mainstream. It's the gift of communication. And what a gift it is to be able to communicate clearly and to be able to inspire others with our words. My old friend Jim Rohn, and Jim was a client of mine for many years, and I was blessed to spend many hours and hours with him in restaurants and in hotel rooms and in our offices, and of course to watch him on the platform many, many times. And he was just a brilliant communicator. And I remember one of the things that he said in a seminar that has always stuck with me. He would say, words have an almost godlike power. In the beginning, God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. It was as if the power of his words created light. Now, what if someone can't see how they can be successful, and you come along and you tell them your story and use the best words that you can and use the right emphasis, and when you finish they say, "Now I can see." See, now I can see. We can bring the gift of insight into other people's lives by sharing our words, by sharing our experiences. Someone might say, "Before I met you, I was blind, but now I can see. Before I met you, there didn't seem to be a way. Now there's a way. You provided a way. Before I met you, I was in the dark. And while you were talking, some things dawned on me. I was in the dark, and some things dawned on me. And now I can see the way." See, is it possible? And of course it is. To be able to share through our communication the wisdom, the thoughts, the processes, our life experience, and have people change, have their lives bettered. And in some ways, it's like the sun coming out in their life, the sun of their consciousness, the sun of their awareness. The lights go on, we like to say, right? I mean, there are amazing possibilities created in the power of our communication. Fully receiving this gift, it will change your life. It can't help but to. But one of the things that's really amazing and something that I overlooked for many, many years is that communication is not just about us talking to others, me talking to you, you talking to me, you talking to others. Communication is also about us talking to ourselves. See, the words that we use, the language that we use, the metaphors that we think with, the questions we ask when we think. This is communication, but it's internal communication, and it's really responsible for the way that we see the world. It's how we express the world to ourselves. So, and let me just give you a couple of examples here. So it's like if you're under a lot of pressure, okay, or you have a lot of stress in your life, you have some kind of a deadline coming up, or something's going on that's kind of crazy for you in the moment. How do you express that to yourself? Do you say things like, "This is killing me," or "I could just explode," or "I feel like I have a gun to my head"? I mean, if you use that kind of languaging to yourself, how do you think your experience of those moments are going to be? Not good, right? I mean, that doesn't feel very good. But by becoming aware of the language and the questions that we're using when we think, we can improve our lives. We can choose new language, new expressions, new metaphors, and really, again, bring the experience that we want to have in our life to our life by being conscious and fully receiving this one gift. But it's pretty amazing, and I'm going to tell you a little personal story like I like to do to demonstrate my experience of this, how I used communication to really make a profound change in my life, a very significant physical change. And the truth of it is I manifested a miracle through my communication and through my beliefs and through my agency by trying to step into my higher self. This is a picture of me on Halloween, actually, in 2012, and I was at a surgery center in Beverly Hills, California, and you can see by the patch that I had surgery on my eye, and the surgery was to correct my strabismus, or what's commonly called lazy eye. And I had lazy eye when I was born. I had the strabismus. I had surgery when I was about 18 months old. But what happens as we get older, the muscles in our eyes stretch, and it's often required to go back in and get a secondary surgery. And that's exactly what I needed. And as you probably know, I took my Santa-ness, my Santa self, to Hollywood last year, which was a big deal. I have an agent in Hollywood, and he's booking me for television commercials or for auditions, actually. And then you go in and you audition for the partners. Dozens or 100 or so other Santas that are all auditioning as well. But the challenge I had, and I really recognized this earlier in the year, long before I actually went down to LA, but for many years as a volunteer Santa, as I was doing photos, portraits and all those kinds of things, I had the lazy eye, I had the crossed eye, but I could sit in such a way and pose in such a way that my eye, which is a little squinty anyway, but it didn't show up in the portrait very frequently. Sometimes it did, but most of the time it came out really well, and we didn't have a problem with the lazy eye. But as I was thinking about what I was doing in Hollywood, knowing that we're going to have TV cameras, I wasn't able to pose myself and situate myself, and they're more likely than not, the cameras would zoom right in on my face, of course, as Santa Claus. So I was kind of concerned. So in May, I started thinking, what can I do to get this surgery done? And I don't have insurance to cover it. It's very, very expensive. It costs thousands and thousands of dollars. So I started thinking, well, what can I do to get this surgery for free? What can I do to get the surgery with no money? And I started, really what I did is I started asking myself two very simple questions. And the first one says, how can I get this surgery for no money? And then the second question that I asked over and over and over to myself is, what can I provide that will have so much value that a great surgeon would gladly do this surgery for me for free or in trade? And starting in May, I started asking those questions all the time to myself. I mean, daily or if not daily, multiple times a week, because I knew this was important, and I wanted to try to find a way to bring this surgery into my life without spending the thousands and thousands of dollars. And what really kind of brought this to a head is I was at a casting call on September 18th, and I was auditioning for Mercedes-Benz television commercials. So it was a big deal. It would have been great exposure for me as Santa, and not only that, it would have been very, very lucrative for me financially. And the casting director kept saying, open your eyes, open your eyes. So and of course I was hesitant to do that because I know what they would see when I open my eyes open, and the bottom picture kind of shows exactly what my eyes look like. And that's not okay as Santa in a Mercedes-Benz commercial. So, but of course, when I opened my eyes wider, I had no chance for the part at that point. And I left that meeting thinking, wow, I really have to get this done. And remember, this is September 18th of 2012. And after that, I went home and I meditate. I try to get in the silence every day. And the next morning, I took the time and I said, how am I going to do this? What can we do? I'm kind of calling in the higher source. I'm doing everything I can do to really bring this to me. And then it dawned on me. It dawned on me. It says, I know exactly what I can do. And it was just a flash of inspiration. I created a video. And the idea behind the video and what I talk about in the video, and you can go check it out. I put a link right here in the page. You can look at the video that I actually created. But the idea was that I could create before and after videos for the surgeon. So, and something that we could put up on YouTube, and I would think that maybe a lot of people would watch the videos of Santa before and after his strabismus surgery, and it might be comforting and helpful to little children that see that Santa went through it. So I thought, hey, maybe there's one of these surgeons out there that would like to have their name associated with that, and maybe even a hospital, like a children's hospital. So I created the little video, and it took me some time. After we got the idea, it took me a little while to get the video created and get it up on the website. But on October 6th, I had it up on YouTube. And then within a couple days of that, it was actually up on the website. But then I was very busy. I was doing these auditions, and I was doing a couple of seminars. I had a bunch of things going on at that point in time. And I didn't get back to the project until October 17th. And on that day, I had some time, and I Googled strabismus surgeons in L.A. Of course, I was in L.A. at the time, and I found one who looked like he was the best of the best. His name is Dr. Ken Wright, and he kind of developed some of the tools for this surgery, and it was very, he just looked like the guy I would really love to use. And then I found the LA Children's Hospital, and I called them both, and I talked to the people that answered the phone, and I explained my idea, and both of them liked it. They were very interested, and they listened to the whole thing, and I gave them the link to the video, and the very next day, on October 18th, I received a call from Dr. Wright's office from one of the assistants in there. And they wanted to schedule an evaluation appointment for me for October 23rd. In fact, I got the call. I remember I was driving down an LA freeway on the way to another audition. And I was pretty excited. I thought, oh, this is great. So during the appointment, Dr. Wright, he determined I was an excellent candidate for the surgery. And he said he would love to provide the surgery for me for free. Did you hear that? He said he would love to provide the surgery for me for free. He said he loved what I was doing. He thought it was great. And he says he saw the idea of going on YouTube. And he says, you don't really need to do that. He says, I'm on the television shows down here. They bring me on as guests on the medical shows. I'm one of the most sought after surgeons of this type in the country. He says, if you want to do anything like that for you or for whatever reason, you're more than happy, willing to do it. That's up to you, but you don't need to. I like you. I like what you're doing. I like your whole Santa personality, and I want to correct your eye. It was pretty amazing. It was astonishing. I left his office. I was almost in tears. And before I left the office, we scheduled the surgery. It was scheduled for 8 days later. So on Halloween, I was in that surgery center like we saw when we started, and I had the surgery done, and it didn't cost me a cent. And it was me communicating with myself, having the belief system, and calling in, I think, my higher self, and then also communicating well to myself, communicating well in the video, and I think I communicated well with the doctor as well, but I don't think it mattered. At that point, he was kind of on board with me, and it was just the formality and to see that that he could do the surgery well. And here's the after, so you can see the above up there. That's the before, and there I am. There's a picture I took of myself today, and you can see the eye is so much better, and it may get better yet over the course of the next several weeks. He said it will continue to improve. I'm going to meet with him actually in a few more weeks, and we'll take another look at it. But you can just see it's so much better. And this is just the manifestation of a miracle. And now what I'm doing is I'm doing everything I can now at this point to help Dr. Wright. I mean, he has a great foundation. He helps underprivileged children around the world. So I'm creating some videos. I wrote an article for a newsletter. I'm introducing them to my friends in the philanthropy department over at Mattel Toys, and I'm hoping that they'll do something together. So this is, this I hope this really demonstrates to you just how important and how effective and how profound this communication gift is to our life, or can be to our life, if we really master it and we really get good with it. So what are some steps? What can you do to really improve your communication skills, your ability to really affect the world with your words and your communication, and affect yourself with your communication? Well, the first thing is, let's increase your vocabulary. And here's a great quote by Sherry Tepper, and it says, as vocabulary is reduced, so are the number of feelings you can express, the number of events you can describe, the number of things you can identify. Not only understanding is limited, but also experience. Man grows by language. Whenever he limits language, he retrogresses. See, that's powerful. That's powerful, and it's so true. So what we need to do is we need to expand our vocabulary. And there are many ways, of course, to do that. Looking up words, reading books, listening when other people's, use our dictionary or online dictionaries and so forth to really understand the meaning of more and more words. But mainly it means use them, right? Sometimes we get so comfortable with a certain set of words that we don't use all of our words very, very frequently. And I know when I graduated from high school, I didn't have a very large vocabulary, and I still don't, compared to a lot of people. But I know my vocabulary today is much larger than it was 40 years ago. So anyway, that's a great tip. The next is develop what I call a transitional vocabulary. A transitional vocabulary. See, for many years, I've been on the lookout for words that affect feelings. And one example that I remember Jim Rohn using was the words matter with and contrasted with the words bothering. So if I were to say, what's the matter with you? That would evoke a feeling, right? An emotion in you. What's the matter with you? And what if I said, what's bothering you? See, two entirely different emotions are evoked from those words. What's the matter with you? It almost creates a feeling of like shame or maybe resentment of some sort. And if I ask what's bothering you, I evoke a feeling of compassion, right? I care, So choosing our words wisely is incredibly important. If I say I hate something, that's unleashing a very powerful, strong emotion. I hate that. I hate the, whatever. But if I say I'm peeved, right? I'm peeved at that person or that situation. I mean, that's kind of a light emotion, but it also demonstrates that you're not happy, right? So it's okay, Anyway. But what I'm getting at is you can choose the words that will allow you to be in a state that you want to be in. So don't go around saying that you hate things. You probably don't really hate them. I mean, if you really hate them, use the word. But if you don't, let's find a word that lightens that tone a little bit to keep you in the state that you want to be in. What if I say I'm nervous or I'm anxious? See, that creates a feeling of dread in me, right? But if I say I'm excited, that creates a feeling of anticipation. I'm eager. And by the way, being nervous or being anxious or being excited, they're all about the same feeling. It's a matter of how we frame it to ourselves. And then lastly, we're only doing three little steps today, three little tips. The last one is do what you know, right? I mean, we know these things. Read more, listen more, use our new words more, look up words more, all of that stuff. But mostly what we have to do is just keep in mind that we want to become an excellent communicator. Just keep that thought in our mind. And my experience is that if you hold that thought, you will become a better communicator. That simply, it just attracts to ourselves. When you hold the thought of something that you want to become, the ways to become it just kind of come to you. You become more aware, and that's the process. So, 3 easy steps to help you receive gift 3, the gift of excellent communication. It's increase your vocabulary, develop a transitional vocabulary, and do the things that you already know. So I hope that you enjoyed gift 3, the gift of communication. I hope that you can really bring it into your life to cause you to have the feelings of meaning and fulfillment and contentment into your life. And I'm just absolutely certain it will improve every relationship in your life. So be sure to join us on Facebook at our Facebook group, which is facebook.com/The Greatest Gifts of All. The conversation goes on there. And I so appreciate the emails that I've received from so many people thanking me for doing this and sharing their experiences. And as time goes on, we'll share more and more of those experiences here on the website. But be sure to pass this along as well. If you have friends or relatives or anyone else who you think can benefit from these 9 greatest gifts and more greatest gifts that we'll share over time, be sure to refer them over to thegreatestgiftsofall.com. Take care, and I look forward to talking with you soon. Hi, welcome to Gift 4 in our Greatest Gift series. This is the 4th of 9 greatest gifts. And of course, I'm Sant Ed Taylor. Imagine spending your days fully engaged in activities that provide you with a sense of purpose and meaning. Imagine ending each workday feeling fulfilled and content. And imagine your life's work providing you with a richness that goes deeper than money, a richness that really feeds your soul. This is the gift of vocation. Vocation says that each of us, each person on this planet, comes to the world with unique gifts and talents that orient us toward specific purposes and ways of life. See, vocation differs from occupation in the sense that any work we do is our occupation, but our vocation is doing a particular kind of work that we feel especially called to do or that we find deep fulfillment in. As I mentioned in Gift 2, I spent most of my adolescence and my adult life, for that matter, up until just a few years ago, rather unaware of what I now see as my true nature. In some aspects, this includes my work. I did not really discover what I now see as my true vocation until just a few years ago, when I was in my mid-50s. And looking back over my working life, I now see that there were many clues that indicated my vocation was trying to come forth and connect with me, but my failure to clearly see and at times outright just resist it, these inclinations, it just caused my true vocation to be elusive, kind of like a fox. It wanted to remain hidden, and you can only catch a glimpse of my true vocation from time to time. And one of the things that really jumped out at me was this 21-word poem by Sarton. And I used it in my 9 Greatest Gifts booklet as well. But let me just read this real quick. 21 words. Now I become myself. It's taken time, many years and places, and I've been dissolved and shaken, worn other people's faces. See, that's exactly how I felt. Exactly how I felt. I've worn other people's faces for most of my life, and I know who some of those faces are. In my late teens and early 20s, I had no idea what kind of work I really wanted to do. But and here's a picture of my dad and I in 1972, and my dad was a real estate broker, and he was successful, and his life looked easy, right? He didn't come home from work all dirty. He had a nice car, and we went out to dinner a few times a month. I mean, it looked good. So there was a time in high school, my senior year, I enrolled in real estate school. I was going to become a real estate agent like my dad, but that didn't last too long. At some point, I decided I really wanted to do manly work. I wanted to do something more difficult, more tougher. I don't know. I wanted to do what I call manly work. And I looked at my uncle, and he rode a motorcycle, and he had a muscle car. And when he returned from the Navy, he got a job in the machine shop. And I thought, I want to be like him. And I went to work in that machine shop for a little while, but that didn't work long. And before too long, I was off hitchhiking around the country. And a year or so later, I took a job in Newport, Oregon as a longshoreman. There's my little house that I lived in at that time. And before long, I was a commercial fisherman, and then after a while, I was a mason's tender and a jackhammer operator, and I went back to work on the docks. And for several years, I did tough work. I mean, I did the manly work. And before long, I wound up getting married and had a young son who was born. And I decided that real estate didn't look all so bad after all. And I went back into real estate and wound up with a house down in Southern California and our young son. And in a way, none of this was really me. And at the same time, of course, it was all really me. But it was not the true me. See, I never really sat down and asked myself, who am I? I was being cool there for a while. I was being my dad there for a while. Well, my dad was great, by the way. I mean, I absolutely admire so much of what he's done in business and as a father. I mean, he's just terrific, and he lifted himself and our family up to a standard of living that was very nice, and he's lived true to his morals, and he constantly lives to his integrity in his life. So there's nothing, I mean, I really respect my dad, and I would be great to be him, but I wasn't him, and so I kind of lost myself in some of who I was, or I never really, like I say, never really just asked that question, who am I? What am I called to do? I never really took the time to do that. And one thing just led to another, and before long I wasn't in real estate anymore. I started my own business with a seminar promotion company. I had great clients. I mean, there's a picture with Tony Robbins, and down below that is me with Jim Rohn, and in the other corner is Brian Tracy and I. And these were the top leaders, the top speakers, at the top seminar leaders in the country, and they were clients of mine. I was just incredibly blessed to call these people my friends and to be able to spend a lot of quality time with them. I loved it. And you can see in the middle there, I'm with Ben and Jerry, so I had an opportunity to meet them, and I went to a fight and had breakfast one time with Muhammad Ali, and I went to a concert with Waylon Jennings as his special guest. I rode with him in his bus, and we had dinner together in between sets. And I had the opportunity to meet Henry Kissinger and Roger Staubach and John Wooden. I mean, great people. I mean, just amazing people. So I'm not complaining at all about my work. I was blessed in so many ways with that. But what I am saying is this: it wasn't by design. It wasn't me listening to my calling and saying, is this who I am? Is this really what I'm best suited to do? It was just one thing led to another, and I wound up doing these things. And it's not exactly what I now see as my true vocation. See, what happened, and this goes to the year of my spiritual awakening, which I know sounds so weird to say, but I really went through a thing in the summer of 2008 that really was, as for me, a spiritual awakening. And during that time, I began to become aware of kind of a gnawing inside of me. I wasn't really happy with the work I was doing. I mean, I loved my speaking. I loved being an internet marketing speaker and consultant, and I loved getting on the podium and the platform and being able to speak. So it wasn't that I didn't like. It was that I wasn't really teaching and bringing people far enough along. I felt like people would leave my seminar, and if they took their notes and they went and implemented it, they would do great, but I was just afraid that they weren't doing that. And I wanted to work with them more over time. I wanted to really spend time to do all I can to really make sure their lives were enriched, that they really increased their income. So as I started seeing it, I said, I love my speaking. I love that part of it, but I want to enrich and teach others, which is today what I see as my true vocation. I'm a teacher, and oftentimes I do that in front of many people, but I'm a teacher, and I really love enriching lives, not just speaking for the sense of speaking, but I want people's lives improved. I want them to see their businesses grow and to see their finances grow. So I really love that. And today I see that as my calling, but I see it bigger. Today I'm less interested in the business aspects and the internet marketing aspect. I'm more interested in helping everyone, and that's really what's caused these 9 greatest gifts. I want to provide things that people can use, information and tools, and that people can really use to have a massive impact on their life and the lives of the people that they're around. So that's what I see today, and that's what I'm all about today. So let's work with some tools, some things that you can use to really discover your vocation, what you can do to really live in that sense of contentment and fulfillment. So there are 5 simple little steps that we're going to cover this time. And the first one is simply watch the video that's a little lower here on the page. It's a great video. It's a lecture from the late Alan Watts. It's only 3 minutes and 9 seconds long. Be quick and easy for you to watch, not nearly as long as my videos. And it's great. So I'm highly recommending that. The next one is listen to or read this book, Let Your Life Speak by Parker J. Palmer. This book just changed my life. When I read this book, I actually listened to the audio book of it. It just had a profound impact. Let me just read you a quick little verse here. It says, "Today I understand vocation quite differently, not as a goal to be achieved, but as a gift to be received. Discovering vocation does not mean scrambling toward some prize just beyond my reach, but accepting the treasure of true self I already possess. Vocation does not come from a voice out there calling me to become something I'm not. It comes from a voice in here calling me to be the person I was born to be, to fulfill the original selfhood given me at birth by God." Powerful book. I just really recommend it. The next sit in the silence. And I've mentioned this before, but for so many years I saw myself as being too busy. Of course, I've always could have taken 20 minutes or 30 minutes to have a time to myself, but I didn't. Today I do, and I highly recommend it. Next, accept infinite energy. Accept the infinite energy. I know I mentioned this in a couple of the other gifts, but it just had such a profound impact on my life when I recognize and truly believe and feel that I'm a part of a bigger experience. I'm just a human being, or an energetic being having a human experience, and that just really feels good to me. And I want to encourage you again to allow for that possibility in your life. And then the fifth, I want you to establish and continue to work on that ideal vision, or that vision of the ideal you. And for me, what I did is I'd get glimpses of this in my silence, in my morning meditations and so forth, and I'd make a little note, and I wound up putting them on my wall in front of my desk so I could see them, but continue to work on that vision. Who are you? Whose are you? What is the ideal you? And get really connected with that. So there it is. Pretty simple. 5 easy steps to really help you receive the gift. So you watch the video below. You read Let Your Life Speak. You sit in the silence, accept infinite energy, and vision the ideal you. There it is. The gift for vocation. So I hope this is meaningful. I hope you really find this valuable. Please leave comments or pop me an email. You can join us on Facebook. We have a great group over there, hundreds of people already involved in that. So join the conversation there, and or pop me an email. I get a lot of people send me emails with great stories, and I love that. So anyway, I look forward to talking to you again soon. Take care. All the best. Hi, welcome to Gift 5. We're already on Gift 5, and this is the gift of prudence. And of course, I'm Sant Ed Taylor, and I know you're probably hearing that word saying, oh my goodness, prudence. You're probably like I am. I had really no real reference for that word. That word wasn't a part of my vocabulary a few years ago. The only real references I had was the Beatles song, right? Dear Prudence, and of course, Dana Carvey doing his great impersonation of President Bush, and he would always say, and it wouldn't be prudent. But, as I was putting these 9 gifts together, I realized that I wanted to use the words that best illustrated what these gifts were. And the gift 2, I used the word agency, which is, again, an unusual word, but it really conveys this concept of living into our higher self and using our free choice to step into that way of life. And this is similar. Prudence, and oftentimes prudence, I think today, it's kind of, we look at it as being cautious. And prudence isn't about being cautious. Prudence is really much, much deeper than that. It really is associated more with a wisdom or having an insight or a deeper knowledge. And we use that wisdom and that insight to make decisions and to come to judgments that are really well advised. So that's what I'm talking about when we talk about prudence. It's weighing options that we have against each other and then determining what would be the best. And for example, if we wanted to give, we had some money we were able to donate to a charity. There are many charities out there that would benefit from our donation. What we would like to do, I would think, is we want to make sure that we use our resources in a way that will have the most impact, the most type of impact that we would like to be a part of. And that's making a prudent decision, weighing many good options, and then selecting the one that works the best for us. So that's really the concept that we're talking about here. And we really want to be at least what we call a reasonably prudent person. And the more that we can step into this gift and become really aware of prudence, the more we can go through our life really being happy and contented with the decisions that we make. Really, for me, being prudent means living true to my values and to my life and the way that I see my highest self living. So it's not really about sacrificing. It's not really about discipline for me. It's about living true to what I think is my highest self, what I reason to be the best thing for me. So I'm willing to sacrifice some things here in the moment for what I perceive to be a better future. It's so easy, and so many of us, and I have so many people in my own family, and I'm sure you do too, who have made decisions that were really not prudent, right? They didn't serve them well in the long term, whether it's alcohol use or drug use or financial decisions or business decisions or something else. And I've seen this again very up close and personal, and very in my best friends and family members, and even for decades I myself I made a lot of decisions and choices that in hindsight weren't very prudent. I mean, my lack of exercise, some of my food choices, financial decisions I made, and so forth. So this is something that I'm really trying to bring fully into my life, and I just can see how important it is, and I'm becoming much better at it, and that's why I see that it's such an important gift that we can all step into. And I really love the quote that Napoleon Hill, and Napoleon Hill, I love him. I've read his books for decades. Think and Grow Rich, and so many others. He has some great books, but here's one of his quotes that I love. It says, "Wisdom consists in knowing what not to do, what not to want, as well as what to want. Wisdom consists in knowing what not to want, as well as what to want." In other words, some parts of wisdom says, I just am not going to go there. I'm not going to do that. Wouldn't be prudent to choose that kind of a lifestyle. Wouldn't be prudent to go with you to that place at this point in time. And I look at my life, and I think a lot of the things that I was able to accomplish, a lot of the things that am very proud of in my life, have to do with what I chose not to do as much as what I chose to do. So we have some real simple little exercises, some simple little steps that we can take. These are the exact steps that I went through as I started living more into being prudent, bringing this prudence concept more into my life. The first one is examine your past outcomes. See the rearview mirror. I thought that was a good picture to depict this. But for me, it was a very helpful process. I look back over the last 40 years, and I picked out some decisions I had made that led to outcomes that were different than what I anticipated, different than what I expected. And when I look back far enough, time kind of provides us with a certain perspective and a disassociation. So I'm not as connected to those decisions or outcomes anymore, but I was really able to see a little more clearly causes and effects. So I could look at that and say, I just didn't see it that way at the time. Now looking in, I can see it, and I use that, the wisdom that comes from that, in today's decisions. I can reason with a little more depth of perception. So that concept of looking back. But here's what happened to me as I was going through this. I saw the negative things. It's like, oh my God, how did I do that? And this outcome was so much different than I anticipated. I went broke, or I became angry, or whatever it was. And what was hard for me was really identifying what I did well, trying to find some decisions that I got right, or that exceeded what my expectation was. So I walked back through that process and said, okay, where are some of the things that really exceeded the expectations? And I found some of the things that I did in that way as well. And I think that balance really helped me. But the concept here is to really look at decisions that were made, outcomes that were received, and then learn from that. And so I think that's an excellent step. It's one that I continue to go through. I look and do that regularly. And I don't beat myself up over it. Now, you don't want to do that. You just want to look at it objectively, learn from it, and move forward. The next, for me, is hold this concept of prudence in your mind and heart. And it just simply means to remember what prudence is, and it's based on goodwill and loving and kindness towards each other. It leads to peace and joy. It's without any evil reasons. It's not trying to be deceitful. It's trying just to be open and honest and using good judgment in the decisions that you make. So just holding that concept in your heart. And again, I found that things they attract to you when you just hold that concept. You find ways to behave and to make reasoned decisions based on that. And one of the things I want to kind of mention here is sometimes people think being truthful all the time, that's really a good thing. I want to always speak the truth. That's not necessarily always prudent. And let me give you just an example. If I were to speak the truth to a competitor about some professional secrets that my company holds, that's not a prudent decision. So it's better for me just to say, I'm not going to discuss that. We don't always have to reveal the truth. Sometimes the prudent thing to do is not, again, kind of like Napoleon Hill said a minute ago, not to go in that direction. So it's something that we want to keep that in mind as well. And then lastly, it was only 3 little tips in this particular gift. The next one is think small. What I mean by thinking small is be prudent about small things, little things. Anything that you can do, like my wife and I, we've made some decisions about what we want to watch on TV, and more accurately, what we don't want to watch on TV, the type of music we want to listen to, and the type that we don't want to listen to, the language we use, and the language we choose not to use. These are little decisions, little conscious decisions that we can make. Initially they're conscious, and in time they just become habit, they become pattern without being conscious. But the concept here is availing yourself of prudent behavior in small ways to continue to shift that pattern in a bigger way. So it's very, very simple. Examine your past outcomes, hold prudence in your heart and mind, and think small. Start with little small steps. So that's it. That's gift 5, prudence. And I'm just really excited that we've been able to cover so much so fast here. We went through the ability to choose our beliefs, which is a huge gift, and the gift of agency, right? Choosing to act in alignment with our higher self. And gift 3 was the gift of communication, the ability to really become an excellent communicator with others, and most importantly with ourselves. And then gift 4, the gift of vocation, and really doing the work that you're called to do. And then, of course, gift 5, this gift, the gift of prudence. And we only have 4 more to go, and I'm really excited about the next 4. And I hope that you're as excited as I am about fully receiving these gifts into your life, and about really having them help make a huge positive difference in your life and the lives of the people who you come in contact with. So I would love to hear your story. If you engage with us on Facebook, we have a little community beginning over there. It's at facebook.com/thegreatestgiftsofall. And pop me an email. I would love to hear from you. Tell me your stories, tell me your experiences. And I know a number of people have done that already, and I really appreciate that. And we've corresponded back and forth in email. But that's it for now. So all the best, and I'll talk to you again soon. Take care. Hi, welcome to Gift 6 of the Greatest Gifts of All. Of course, I'm Sant Ed Taylor, and this is a gift that's really had a profound impact on my life. It's a gift that's lifted me out of some of the darkest times of my life. And let me just start by sharing a personal story. And that Motel 6 that you're looking at there, I was in a room in that Motel 6 on December 9th, 1996. I had a large, in fact, the largest U-Haul truck that U-Haul rents, and the largest trailer they rent, a 6x12 cargo trailer on the back of a 26-foot U-Haul truck. And I was moving my family from San Diego to Ashland, Oregon, about 800 miles north. I had, in the months preceding, I had gone broke. I had lost our home to foreclosure. I had sold my Rolex watch. I had turned my leased Lexus back to the dealer. We'd lost it all. And I was sitting in that Motel 6 in the middle of nowhere, waiting for my wife and daughter who were following behind in our Toyota minivan. While I was in that room waiting for them, the phone rang. And it was a hospital in Coalinga, California, about four hours south of me on I-5 there. The nurse told me that my wife and 9-year-old daughter had been involved in a single car accident. The minivan that my wife was driving had rolled multiple times, and it came to a rest on the roof in the center divide of I-5. My wife and daughter, they were banged up pretty bad with injuries, but none of them were life-threatening, thank God. My parents drove to aid my wife and daughter. I couldn't get there. I couldn't get there in time from where I was. It just didn't work. So my parents, thankfully, were able to leave their home in Orange County, California, and meet them at the hospital. At that time, and the next day I continued on up to Ashland where I was moving, and at that time I had less than $300 to my name. I had no car. I had a wife that was badly banged up, and a daughter that was banged up. I just moved into a house that I'd never seen before. We had in a town where we didn't know a single person. That week and the weeks that led up to it, and the weeks immediately after, those were truly not only the darkest weeks of the year, they were the darkest weeks of my life. Emotionally, I was lost. I had lost my identity. For years, I had seen myself as an independent, successful business person. My clients had been the top motivational speakers in the country. I had gone to their homes for parties and had dinner with them. And now I was broke in a ratty rental house with no car and no clear vision of the future. As I sat, I began to get a glimmer of hope in time. And I began to sense a small flickering, kind of, okay, there's something out here. There's something out here I can do. And it was a painful process. There's no question. There's no denying that. But here's what I now know. I saw that hope because I was looking for it. See, we see what we're looking for and what we're open to. And I was open to hope at that point in my life. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know what was going to come next. But I wanted hope. I wanted to move on to something. I chose a belief that supported a vision that I wanted for my life. I mean, that's what hope was for me. I could start over. And from here, the place that I was in Ashland, Oregon, where I knew no one, in a beat up rental house, under those circumstances, I could start over, and I recognized that, and I realized that, and I realized that was what was necessary. The gift of hope allows us to survive these dark times, the darkest winters of our lives. As I sat thinking, I began to sense this hope, and began to sense a small, to me it was kind of like a flickering flame, kind of like the candle that we're showing here. I began just to I won't say excite me, but just to give me a reason, give me a bit more of a purpose. And here's what I now know. Like I say, I saw that because I was open to it. And in doing that, it really changed everything. See, and I love this quote, this from Anne Lamott. Hope begins in the dark. The stubborn hope that if you just show up and try to do the right thing, the dawn will come. And that is exactly what happened to me. Hope is an incredibly powerful gift. It can really change our lives if we're open for it and if we let it. So what are some of the steps that you can do, that I can do, to fully receive this gift into our lives? The first for me was just to accept what is. Things are what they are, right? I mean, and this is where I found myself, and I'm sure you found yourself in some dark times. And as long as I was stuck in asking, why did this happen to me, or how could this happen, or how could that person have done it, as long as I was blaming other people or the circumstances or blaming myself, I was stuck. But once I decided just to say, this is what is, it is what it is for whatever reasons, I accept this fully, and this is my new reality, then I began to be able to turn things around. And the next step for me was to ask a very simple question. Where do I go from here? Where do I go from here? What is it that comes next for me? And by asking that question, from a total state of acceptance, you have to be in this, I accept where I am, now what? And to sit with that, and you can get a glimpse of a new direction. At least I did, and that's exactly what happened. That I started saying, well, I could try this and this, and I was building on and trying to construct in my mind some simple things that I could do, and that came about in a part because of daydreaming, allowing myself to daydream, and this is this third thing that you can do. allow yourself to daydream. Recent studies demonstrate that daydreaming allows us to see additional possibilities in our lives. To encourage this process, there's a guy named Dr. Schooler, and very, very interesting studies that he's done on this. And one of the things that he says that if you just allow yourself to go jogging, or just go for a little walk, or do some knitting, or just sit around doodling, anything, as soon as you allow yourself that time to yourself and just let your mind wander, you can become much more productive. You want to be doing another thing. This is a part of the process. You want to be not just doing nothing. You want to be doing something, and something that's easy to let your mind wander. That is where the creativity in your mind can really unleash itself. So that process of just allowing yourself to daydream, and maybe even at times where that's difficult, that really helps, and it was something that helped me. So it's very simple to really allow this gift of hope to fully be received into your life. Start by just accepting what is. Ask yourself, where do I go from here? In a very sincere, real way. Where do I go from here? And wait to hear the answers, and they will come to you, and they will likely come in a daydream if you put yourself in a position to do the daydreaming. So that's gift 6, the gift of hope, and I hope that you will allow this gift to really be a part of your life. Like I say, this has really been impactful for me, and I'm not sure what would have happened in my life if I had not embraced hope during my darkest times. But in looking at lives of people that I see themselves as being hopeless, and I do know people like that. They look at their lives as if they just have no hope. And I'll tell you one thing for sure: I'm blessed to have found hope in my life, and looking at the lives of people that seem hopeless, I choose hope, and it's something that I believe we can cultivate and bring into our own lives. And that doesn't mean to walk around with our head in the clouds. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But what I'm really talking about is recognizing that being hopeful, having hope, serves us better than being hopeless. And those are really what our options are. So let's bring this thought and cultivate this habit of hope into our lives. So hope you found this gift and all the gifts useful. I hope you'll join me in the discussion on Facebook or right here on the website. And until next time, this is Sant Ed Taylor wishing you all the best. Hi, welcome to Gift 7 of the 9 Greatest Gift series. Of course, I'm Sant Ed Taylor, and this gift is the gift of faith. And before we jump into it, I just want to thank you. As I've been going through and putting all these videos together, I just think what an honor it is and what a pleasure it is to be able to articulate these things and to share my stories. And I'm hoping that you're finding inspiration and maybe some tools that you can use in your own life to really fully accept these gifts as you move forward. And I just want to say that faith, gift 7 here, is really been the gift that's helped me move through some really dark times. And like I talked about in gift 6, I've went through the financial crisis, the bankruptcy of my life, and the difficulties with my son and my wife being involved in an automobile accident and business failures and all kinds of things. And it's faith that has kind of pulled me through that. But I also want to say that faith has been one of the most difficult of the 9 gifts for me to actually receive. See, what faith does is it asks us to believe in something that we really have no proof of, and that was just not very easy for me, at least not in the beginning. And here's what really helped me receive this transformational gift into my life. I realized that there are many things, in fact most things, that I believe or I accept as true that I actually have no proof of, or certainly no absolute certainty about. And I recognize that these things that I accept as true, and I'm like, what is that? Why do I believe, for example, that my car is going to slow down when I hit the brakes? Right? And that's obviously not my foot there, but we have a lot of confidence in general, right? That we're gonna, if we put the brake on in our car's gonna slow down and ultimately come to a stop. And that's true. But what if we thought of this? What if we focused about this? And you may not even realize this, but there are more than 15,000 cases each year of brake failure in automobiles. more than 1,000 a month, more than 30 a day, every day of the month, that brakes fail. Now, what if that became your focus? What if every time you got in the car, your focus was on, is it going to be me? Are my brakes going to fail? Is this the day? I mean, how would you drive if that was your focus, if your brakes were going to fail? I bet you're going to be nervous. You're going to be really gripping the wheel and probably drive very slowly and maybe keep a large distance between you and the cars in front of you. And you might avoid mountains and hills, and you might even choose not to drive. So, right? I mean, you might say, it's just not worth it. I'm not going to drive. My brake could fail any time. My point is that it could really limit your life. You could limit your experience and your ability to get around by creating a belief and having faith in something that could happen, right? Because you don't know. You don't have the certainty that your brakes are going to work. So here's the deal. At least the way I look at it. If your focus becomes what you can have faith in, all right? We have some experience that tells us certain things. We have other references outside of ourselves that tell us certain things. And the fact of the matter is, brakes can fail, and brakes do fail every single day. And that is true. But the bigger truth is that brakes don't fail 99.99% of the time. I mean, brakes almost never fail. But our focus can make our reality very limited. And what I'm getting at here is we can choose what we want to focus on. As I discussed in Gift 1, we get to pick what we believe. See, I love this old saying, everything will be okay in the end. If it's not okay, it's not the end. and I like that. There's a lot of truth in that. We get to choose what we believe. And I know, in my case, I choose to believe that things are going to work out. Things are going to serve me well. And I trust that if something doesn't work as I expect it to, if my brakes do fail, that'll be okay too. I'll work through that. See, in recent years, I found that by choosing beliefs that allow me to have faith in myself and in others and in nature, or what I might call source or God, I can accept with grace that I don't have to have all the answers, right? I accept, which means I choose to believe that things I don't understand have a purpose, right? They have a purpose in a bigger picture. And even if I don't understand what that purpose is, I can just accept it as this is the way things are. In the past, I saw things quite differently, right? My belief, my belief systems, my beliefs, they kept me from really receiving the gift of faith. So let me just share my story real quick. For many years, I took immense pride in being very autonomous, right? For 30 plus years, for well over 30 years, I was a salesperson, a sales manager, and a business owner, and my income was tied directly to my performance. I received what I deserved, or what I perceived that I deserved. If I made sales, I made money. If I didn't make sales, I didn't make money. In business, if I had customers, I made money. If I don't have customers, I don't. As a sales manager, if I was able to inspire and to train my salespeople to do an effective job, then I made an override, a commission on their sales. So I felt very responsible for and very deserving of what I did in business in my life. I made my own breaks. The things and the people in my life were the things and the people I deserved, and that's the way I look at it. I deserved it. I was deserving. It kind of reminds me back of the belief system we talked about, that where I put on all the weight, right? I deserve to reward myself. It's the same basic thing here. I earned it. See, and the beliefs that resulted in me having that type of mindset, they really kept hidden what I now see is the bigger picture, the rest of the iceberg. And I even adopted a belief in my life. I was very independent. That was very much my nature. And I very consciously chose this belief system back in my late 30s. I said, if it's to be, it's up to me. Right? If it's to be, it's up to me. If I'm going to make more money, that's up to me to make it. If I'm going to have happy children, it's up to me to make them happy. If I'm, and on and on. If it's to be, it was up to me. That was a belief system that I consciously adopted, like I say, in my late 30s. Now, looking back, and this is kind of interesting, but it was shortly after that that many of the things in my life went in directions that were much different than they would have if what was to be was really up to me. See, there was shortly after I adopted this belief system that all kinds of financial circumstances came crashing down. I had some very significant issues with my son, and so forth. And it became very clear to me, not in the moment. Now, 20 years later, I'm looking back at it's almost like a sign, right? It's almost like, really? If it's up to me, it's up to you? Like I could just see the big guy in the sky looking down. You think it's really up to you? And of course, we all play a part in it. But here's what my belief is today. See, I see that my unique skills and talents and gifts, I'm good at a lot of things, and I appreciate that. I feel good about myself. It's not about that. But I also feel that I'm connected to a much larger community and a much larger universal energy. And today, what I really believe, it's that total interconnected reality, and my faith in me being a part of that. That's what is going to cause me to have or not have the things that I might choose in my life. So it's totally different. If rather than if it's to be, it's up to me. If it's to be, it's up to me playing well and working well and contributing well and supporting others, and so that's the bigger picture that I for many years was just lacking from my belief system. So as I move forward now, what I want to do is look at it and try to help you look at what we can do, what you can do, what I can do to really bring this faith into our lives and keep it into our lives, because like everything else, all these gifts, they're like muscles. The more we can use them, the more able they are to kick in when we need them. So we want to develop this faith in our day-to-day life. And so here's the steps. Here's some things that we can do. And we just have 3 quick little steps today. The first one is just understand what faith is. And pretty simply, faith is confidence that what we hope for will actually happen. It gives us assurance about things that we cannot see, right? That's all we're talking about here. Like the brakes, we have confidence that they're going to work, right? We have an assurance that these things will happen. We can't see it yet. We haven't applied the brakes yet, but there's a confidence that comes from that. So our first step, our first thing that we can do is just get really clear of understand what is faith. It's just accepting a confidence into our life. Now, this is the part that was kind of a bit of a challenge for me. It's like, if you don't have faith in something or another, whatever it might be, that you don't have faith in the future, you don't have confidence in what the future looks like or what a relationship might look like or whatever it might be, gain knowledge. That's what the image is supposed to represent here. Gain knowledge. See, there's information and evidence to support or cause doubt about, for that matter, anything that you can think of, from the brakes working to the brakes not working, to there is an afterlife to there is not an afterlife. You name it. You can find all the evidence that you need to support whatever belief system you want to support. But like I've talked about before, if in the silence, if you can, in your alone time, if you can just vision your higher self and vision what it is that you want to be and what you want your beliefs, the kind of life you want to live, and find the beliefs that support that, that's where you can really gain this knowledge that will allow you to develop faith in your life and really fully receive that gift of faith. The next, it's practice faith. In Gift 6, which was hope, I mentioned daydreaming and the emerging evidence that's showing how beneficial daydreaming can be. It's really staggering. Anyway, I've found that when I let my mind just wander, my thoughts can kind of bridge the gaps between where I am now and where I would like to be. So sometimes we're in a hopeful state, and I'm kind of daydreaming about, if I did this and this would happen like this, and we get into this little thing where all of a sudden it's like, hey, this could happen. These things could actually come together, and if I did it like that, so that's what I'm talking about. Let your mind build these bridges between where you are now and where you want to go, and that's where the faith can really really build and really develop. So step one, easy, understand what faith is. Two, gain knowledge, gain and support your faith, support the beliefs that and really firm up the beliefs that allow you to have the faith that you want to have in your life. And then practice faith. So here's the little quote from me this time. Let's have faith in ourselves, each other, and the mysterious forces that surround us. See, if we have faith in ourselves, that's terrific, and in each other, and in the mysterious forces that surround us. Very, very huge concept. Okay, that is gift 7, the gift of faith, and I would love to hear from you, and if you can share any of your stories about the role that faith may have played in your life, please leave your comments either here on the website, over on the blog post. There's a place you can make comments, or join the conversation over on Facebook at facebook.com/thegreatestgiftsofall. And by fully receiving these gifts into our lives, the benefits, they just allow us to live a happier, more contented, more fulfilled, deeper life with more purpose and meaning. And that's what these greatest gifts of all are really all about. So that was gift 7. We have 2 more to go, and until then, take care. All the best. Of all the gifts in this 9 Greatest Gifts series, I imagine this one, Gift 8, the gift of love, will be the one that's most expected. I am, of course, Santa Ed Taylor, and I hope that by sharing this very personal story about the circumstances of my life and how they caused me to look at love from an entirely different perspective, and while my experiences were at times very heart-wrenching, this unique expression of love dramatically improved many lives, most significantly mine and my son's. In 1992, and again in the year 2000, my ability to behave in loving ways was taken to levels that I could never have really imagined. In 1992, I placed my 15-year-old son in a locked-down boarding school for troubled kids in Utah. This followed years of making excuses for his behavior, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but it was some very tormenting times that led to that decision. 8 troubling years later, when he was 21, I refused to let him live in our home. I had kicked him out, which caused him at the time to become homeless on the streets of Medford, Oregon. At that time, when he was 21, after 7 years of me making excuses for him and giving him second chance after second chance after second chance, I determined that the way I was expressing my love for him was not serving either of us well. I decided to express my love in a new way, a way that was much more difficult for me, by allowing him, and this was really, really difficult, but what I wanted to do is allow him to come to terms with the harsh reality of his conditions, of his life. And I firmly believed that my son was either going to die, be jailed, he's going to get thrown in jail for one reason or another, or he would decide to turn his life around, which of course is what I had hoped for, but I'd really resigned myself to live with whatever outcome came to pass. Expressing my love in ways that really allowed my son to experience severe hardship was incredibly foreign to me. See, my life, I had always been blessed with very loving parents, and they were always doing things for me. And in fact, that's what kind of love was. It was doing for, right? And not in withholding from, but actually we do for. My parents gave generously of all things, and of themselves and of their time, and great gifts. And my wife was the same way, and so was I. I'd just been raised that way. And that was the way that, again, love was expressed in doing for in my life, and especially when it came to our children. So finding this new way of expressing my love by withholding and not doing for was very, very foreign to me. It was very difficult for me at the time to go through, and it's even difficult to look back on. But I'm pleased to say that over time, this expression of love became easier for me to live with, and I'm thrilled to say that my son did see what his behavior was causing and what the choices that he were making, how they were serving him or weren't serving him. And in time, my son sought the help he needed, and he was ultimately diagnosed with bipolar schizophrenia, which, of course, in hindsight, explains a lot of the trouble that he had in his teen years and so forth. And I'm glad to report that today he's doing incredibly well. He's a vital part of his spiritual community and a loving family member, and just a great guy. In some ways, my experience with my son and his experience with his condition, that's what really opened me up to spirit. Of course, I now see this entire experience as a tremendous blessing in my life. And in fact, I always look for and I always find an empowering meaning in everything that life gives me. And I'm really blessed to have that kind of an outlook and a belief system. I always believe that there is an empowering meaning in everything that we go through. I know that not doing for my son was not an unloving act at this point in my life. And I look back and I recognize that it was, in fact, the most loving thing that I could do. Had I continued to subsidize his behaviors and forgive them, and not that I didn't forgive them, but I mean, to be a part of it. You know, I know they use the word enable a lot, which I don't know, I don't know what I feel about that word, but I get the concept. And if I had continued to do that, he would never, I mean, I don't know if he would have ever come to terms with this unique condition of his life and the whole unique experience that his life has become for him. So that's one expression of love that I think is unusual, and it's one that not everybody deals with or comes to terms with people in their lives. There's another that I want to share, and this is really from a short story by Elise McMullen, and it's a great story about a young Native American man. And let me just kind of read the story. A leather-footed man runs swiftly through the brush. His bow sets within his hands, deftly, unwavering, a sure friend. The beaded strap, holding a long pouch of arrows, moves gently across his chest. There is a rustling 60 feet away. He stops and kneels. Pulling from the pouch the proper point, he crosses the bow and stretches the band back, aiming in the direction of the sound. The animal moves closer. The color of the hide becomes visible. A deer. The tension in the band is sure, true, natural. His grandfather's voice whispers to him from a land of spirit. Check the points. Not too young. He waits. He breathes. His breath slows. He gazes over, swaying. Finally, he spots the antlers and counts 1, 2, 3, and yes, 4. 4 points. He steadies his hand, following the movement of the brush. The deer's old enough. The Creator, give me a sure arrow. Minutes pass. His muscles begin to quiver slightly under the strain. His eyes blur, and he blinks several times, again to regain his focus. Creator, give me a sure arrow. At last, the deer moves into plain sight. The arrow leaps from the bow, whipping the air. The man now rushes to the animal. He must get there quickly. When he arrives, the deer is not moving, but his breath has not left him. He kneels at the side and places his hands upon the animal's neck. The arrow has pierced his heart, a sure arrow. He leans his face towards the deer's soft ears. Thank you, brother. Thank you for giving my family food to eat. Then he sits and comforts the animal as he leaves the land of man for the land of spirit. Pass peacefully, brother. You are honored. See, I've heard there is a Cherokee belief that goes back for eons, that if you do not thank an animal for giving its life to you, you may given his life so that you may live, sickness will come upon you and the community. So that's the old Cherokee belief, and maybe it's just a spiritual superstition. I don't know, but when we look back, and more Americans find themselves in doctor's office and high cholesterol with or high diabetes or whatever, I kind of wonder if there might have been a nugget of truth in that old ancient wisdom that today we don't find ourselves being thankful, and that's what this really boils down to. That the love that we're talking about here in Gift 8 is that love that recognizes being connected to all things and to all people. This is really the love that we're talking about here. Uh, and then when it comes to relationships, with especially with those people who are closest to us, that can be complex too. And my new friend Dick Rauscher, who's 25 years experience as a psychotherapist, he simplifies it a bit. And Dick says that he believes that love is if you believe, let me put it this way, that Dick says that believing that love is a feeling is unhealthy. So he said, you hear that? He says that if you believe that love is a feeling, that is unhealthy. And here's why. And it's the quote right here on the screen. The reality is love has nothing to do with feelings. True love is a behavior. If we base our love on how we feel, our behaviors will often be unloving because our feelings are so volatile. Our feelings tend to create conditional love. When we have a commitment to behave in a loving manner, regardless of how we might be feeling in the moment, we can offer a more authentic, unconditional love. Very, very interesting. I mean, that give you some good food for thought. See, for me, understanding that love is a behavior helped me to fully receive the gift of love into my life. So understanding that I can demonstrate it, and get to the point now where I just recognize that I can demonstrate love to all things and to all people by honoring them. And that served me well. And it's also served me well to learn that love is not always best expressed by doing for a person. And there are times when love is best expressed by simply letting people do what they choose without judgment and also without your support. So here are the steps, right? The things that we can do to bring love more fully into our lives. And the first one, and one that really helped with me, was starting with me by asking myself, what must I do to feel love for myself? How must I behave to demonstrate love for myself? Because love starts within ourselves, right? So if you look at yourself and say, if I just could give myself some me time, if I could take 15 minutes or 30 minutes a day, and that would really show me that I love me. I'm making time for myself. That might be something that you can try. Or if you set firm boundaries, and sometimes you just have to say no, and that would show you that you love yourself. I don't know what it is for you, but identify something that you can look at and say, this is how I show myself that I love myself, that I'm taking care of myself. And the next one is really become conscious of all people and things that contribute to your life, like the Native American with the deer. We have to be thankful for everything and honor and love everything. You don't have to, right? It's my belief speaking there, but that's what I feel has worked for me. For me, it was very easy and kind of far too easy to really become numb and just take for granted all the people and all the things that really contributed to my life and still contribute to my life. So I want to stay very, very conscious of that and of these people and try to be loving and be aware. And so that the thought here is that if you can become conscious, become aware, that helps create that connectedness, and that's really where love best flows from. And then just behave in loving ways, right? Make that phone call, that you've been putting off. And I find myself, putting off phone calls for one reason or another. And sometimes I just have to sit down and just, okay, I need to get this done. And, or send someone some flowers or candies or something. Just be nice. I mean, that's what love expressed really is. It's just being nice, right? Now, my son probably would say, yeah, you weren't real nice to me when you weren't letting me stay in your home or you were doing this or that and the other thing. But the reality of it is, that is being nice. I mean, it's hard, it's difficult, but that's being nice too. It's being nice in that it allows them to realize their circumstances, and it's the most loving thing you can do. So really identify how you can best express love to others, and then live true to that. Like all the rest, we have to live into what these concepts are that we hold for ourselves. So again, it's 3 easy steps. Just ask, how must I behave to demonstrate that I love myself? I mean, let's really get comfortable with the love that we have of ourselves and of our Creator, for that matter, and then become conscious of the connections that we have in our life, and then express our love. How are we going to go about expressing our love? So that's it. And I just want to say thank you for the privilege again and the opportunity to share how love has really positively impacted my life, and in some ways that it's expressed itself, and I think in unique ways, and ways that have really served me and others really well. So So I just wanted to again say thank you. Join the conversation. Again, if you haven't joined our group over on Facebook, it's easy to do. Just go to facebook.com/the greatest gifts of all, and we can communicate there, or right on our little blog on the website here. You can add your comments, and I look forward to hearing from you. I hope you'll share your stories, and I hope you'll share the greatest gifts of all with the people in your lives. So I look forward to talking with you again. Our last gift, Gift 9, will be coming to you shortly. Bye. Hi, welcome to Gift 9. And before we get started, I just really want to say thank you. It's been a huge privilege for me to be able to share with you these 9 greatest gifts. And as you know, these gifts have had a very positive and very profound impact on my life. And of course, I'm Sant Ed Taylor, and I believe that each of us, we have dreams that we hold deep down in our souls, and that we have very special gifts. And if we can just allow those gifts to manifest in our lives, we can make a huge difference in the quality of our days, the quality of our lives, and in the quality of the lives of the people we touch. We can really reach out and make the world a better place. And I really believe that by recognizing and fully receiving our birthright, God-given gifts, what I'm calling the greatest gifts of all, we can live into our higher purpose and live a life that is deeply contented and totally fulfilled and truly joyful. So that's what Gift 9 really brings us. It's the gift of bestowal. And this is going to probably be a unique way of looking at the word bestowal. And I want to start with just sharing a little bit of a story. See, I believe that bestowal is the most natural, most spiritual thing we can do. I also believe bestowal may well be our true life purpose. And the person that you're looking at on the screen there is Buckminster Fuller, if you don't recognize his photo there. And he was one of the greatest visionaries who lived in the 20th century. He's probably best known, of course, for developing the geodesic dome, but he contributed much, much more to the world. He was one of the world's first futurists and global thinkers, and he was born in 1895, and that was the same year that the automobile was invented and the year of the radio. And after he got married at age 22. But what had happened is he went through a bunch of really significant personal tragedies. He lost a child. He had a child die in his arms of pneumonia, the baby was not even 4 years old yet. And after that, he went through a devastating bankruptcy and just went through all kinds of personal tragedies. And he got to a point where he was totally depressed, and he was standing at the Lake Michigan, right on the edge of the lake, and he was contemplating suicide. And at that moment, he heard a voice, and the voice told him, he says, "You are not here in this world for yourself. You are not here in this world for yourself." And those words caused him to really reevaluate his life and reevaluate the world. And on that day, Bucky decided to commit himself to solving problems, and he was going to solve the problems by designing all kinds of things which would be capable of doing more with less. So that was this concept. What can I create that can actually do more with less? And this is the part that's really unique. He decided to pay no attention to earning a living. So he never promoted anything, never sold anything. He wasn't paying others to do that. Bucky simply believed that reality is reality. If his designs are good for the world, then nature would take care of him. Okay, and he called the process procession, Precession, not procession, precession. And the question becomes well, how did that work, right? I mean, today, very cynical, right? We would look at that and say, what do you mean? He created stuff and he never went to went about marketing it and selling it. How did that turn out? Well, he became incredibly successful. I mean, he wound up playing. At one point, I read he had 43 different cars. He had 3 airplanes. He had boats. He was very, very successful. And even though he never graduated from college, he was awarded nearly 50 honorary doctorate degrees for his work. Okay, so he was incredibly successful. He even made the cover of Time magazine in 1964. He wound up passing away in 1983 at the age of 88. So why do I bring all this up? Why is this even important? The concept of procession is what I want to have you think about and see how that relates to bestowal. See, here's what procession is, the way Bucky was talking about it. And again, it's not procession, which means, movement in a line to proceed. In most dictionaries, you won't even find the word procession. But if you go on the internet and look it up, you'll find many references to how Bucky used this word. But the concept is simply this. It's the idea of dropping a pebble in the lake. When it's dropped in a calm lake or in the water, the waves come out from the pebble. It creates ripples, right? And they all travel away from where the pebble was dripped. So that's the idea of procession, things that just move outward like that. And then the other was a bee gathering honey. See, so as an example of procession, what he was talking about when a bee gathers nectar to create honey, I said great honey, done great honey, or done gather to gathers nectar. But as the bee's gathering this nectar, what the bee is actually doing is it's pollinating all the other plants, all the other flowers, right? And so now the question becomes one of, as this bee is going through its life process of gathering nectar so it can create honey. Now, let me ask this: could a bee have a life purpose? And this is what the question that Bucky said. Is it possible, just possible, that the honeybee has a life purpose? And if it is, what would that purpose be? Is it to pollinate plants, to sustain life all over Earth? Or is it just simply to gather nectar to make honey? I mean, most of us would think that obviously they're just going out to gather nectar to make honey to sustain their life. Bucky looked at it and said, no, I don't think so. I think it's bigger than that. I think that what they do is they gather nectar to make honey. But what their purpose is to pollinate all the plants. And they do it unconsciously. They do it subconsciously. It happens as a result of them doing what they do during the course of the day. Very, very interesting. And he took that concept into his life. So he says, if I just do what I do, I like to invent, I like to see how we can do more with less. If I just do that and trust that nature will take care of me, trust it. The bees just went out and they gathered their nectar to make their honey and just trusted that the flowers will all be pollinated. See, interesting concept. So here's how this relates, how we can bring this into what does this mean to us? How does this apply into your life, and how does it apply into the gift, this bestowal concept? See, here's the way that I see that it works. This is not a transaction. In our life today, we get so transactional. We will, we'll donate, or we will help, or we'll do something because we're getting a tax write-off, or because we feel obligated in some way. It's not natural that we're doing it. We're doing it in kind of an unnatural way. We pay taxes. The tax money goes to support the needy in some way. And it's an entirely different experience than if we just walking through the parking lot and see somebody needs help with groceries into their car, and if we just reach over and help without thought, without reward. See, that's loving, that's bestowal. It's not transactional. So the concept that we're looking at when we say bestowal is this concept of doing something good, giving in a way that is second nature, first nature, right? It is nature working through us. Now, if we look at it and say, well, does that really work? I mean, is Bucky just a unique expression of this, or does this hold water? I mean, does this concept really have legs? And the more I thought about it, is that there's a bunch of people that came to mind. Oprah Winfrey is certainly one, who, if you'd listen to her tell her stories, she was just doing what she loved. She loved what she was doing. I mean, her purpose was to be in front of people and to do the things and to share the stories and to share her life experiences and share others. I mean, she saw it as a purpose. Now, in the process, she became wealthy and influential and being able to help so many people in so many ways, and that's terrific. And then there are others. I mean, of course, we can think of artists of all kinds and musicians and these two guys, Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, who again they were pursuing a passion. They were doing what they do, and in the process, they changed the world. So I believe that this concept, this procession, if we can be strong enough to allow it into our lives, it can have a profound change and really allow us to live fully into this very spiritual life of bestowal. And, just to make this a little bit more concrete, I was trying to think of some real life examples from my life. And just last week I was in Costco, and there were some grandparents in there shopping with a little grandchild. And then they saw me, and I just wearing my regular, street clothes, of course. And they saw me, and they recognized me as Santa, and they asked if they could get their child's picture with me, and the grandchild's picture. And of course I said yes, and I felt good, and we had fun, and we talked a little bit, and did all that sort of thing. That same day, my wife and I were at Costco, and we went up to check out, and there was a woman in front of us that had a bunch of heavy items in her cart, and she was having a difficult time. So I just asked if I could help put them up on the conveyor belt for her, and wound up doing that. Little things, and I'm not bragging on myself. I'm just saying these are examples of how this expresses in my life, and I'm sure in your life. And these are the things that if we can just welcome in a more larger, more whole way. So if we're doing all this thinking, well, I'm going to be nice because that defeats the purpose. That becomes a transaction. If we just look at it and say, I'm a nice person, that person, I can help them easily here. And whatever easy is for you, it doesn't have to be easy. It might be difficult to help, but you still feel that it's right, and you're doing it out of love, out of compassion. That's what we're talking about. And this whole idea of bestowal and is just simply, and again with procession, with this unconsciousness associated with it, just doing it, just allowing that to flow from you. This great saying, Confucius says, and remember, no matter where you go, there you are. So this is not about becoming a giver, right? It's about being a giver. It's just about being. Wherever you go, there you are. And if you are a person who easily just gives and bestows, when those situations come into your life without thought, you will be a giver. And that to me is the most godly, the most natural thing, the highest purpose that we can really serve. So let's look at some steps. How can we really bring this more fully into our life? And the first one that we can do, the first step we can take is simply practice. You just want to remember to practice bestowal. We just want to remember to be the person that does this stuff, right? That we want to be the person that helps the fellow shopper, the person that helps the person across the street. And it's a matter of just remembering. It's creating an awareness. But the next step is not just remembering, it's actually doing it. Okay? We want to reach out and actually do it. It's one thing to remember, but that next step of lifting over, and sometimes it'll go outside of our comfort zone. Should I ask? I don't know. But if we just reach out, hey, can I help you with that? That makes the difference, and it's little things that can make a huge difference. So the step 2 in the process is just practice, do it. And then the last, and this is the one where it really comes full circle, it's be. Just be bestowal. Be like the honeybees here. Just be it. Do what you do, and in the process of what you do, allow the bestowal to come through you. Allow yourself to be the giver. Allow yourself to care and give and reach out and touch other lives in very positive ways without thought, and certainly without any need for anything to come back to you. The doing it is what you receive from it, and it's nothing greater than that. But it's really, I think, our highest purpose here on this planet. So here are the 3 steps. Become aware, right? Practice. And then be. And what we're striving for is be. What we just want to do is we want to be bestowal. Here's a great quote from the Dalai Lama as we wrap this up. Our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. Our prime purpose in this life is to help others. And if you can't help them, at least don't hurt them. There it is. That's Gift 9 in our 9-gift series, the Gift of Bestowal. And again, I just want to thank you for allowing me to be the messenger and the reminder of these greatest gifts. And I hope I've been able to provide maybe some tips or some inspiration that will help you really receive and fully receive these gifts into your life. And I want to say that by you allowing me to be in this role, and to be the reminder, be the presenter of this. You've really helped me live into what I see my purpose on life being at this point in time. And I want to say thank you for that. And I really am truly grateful. Share the greatest gifts, if you would, with anyone in your life that you think can benefit from them. And you can join us, of course, at thegreatestgiftsofall.com. You can also join the conversation on Facebook at facebook.com/thegreatestgiftsofall. And there'll be more greatest gifts coming. They won't come in the format of a series like this where we've talked about the 9 greatest gifts, but there are many other great gifts that we can bring into our lives, and we'll talk about them more over time. So I'll talk to you soon, and I wish you all the best.